fade to black. And we will begin in 5, 4, 3.
Like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for February 6th, 2025. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Konami is busy as a new Castlevania may get announced later this year, and we do finally know when Metal Gear Solid Delta is launching. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa, everybody. Jan, how are you doing?
I am doing completely okay. I'm trying to fight off the sickness, so I'm just eating ginger now, Grubb.
Yeah, ooh, you got to fight off the sickness. I think that's how that song goes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not getting down with it. I'm staying far away from it.
Oh, shit. Pretty good, though. That was a pretty good one. It's everywhere. They canceled school again today, not because the teachers were sick this time, although I bet they still are. We're covered in ice everywhere, but I bet they are happy to have an extra day to let everyone sort of bounce back. The kids have gone from upset tummies to needing the bucket next to them all nonstop to fevers.
Oh, no.
Like that stopped and the fever started, and then the fever stopped, and now they're both coughing. So it's just one thing after another, and walking pneumonia. Is that how you say that? I never know how to say it because there's ammonia and pneumonia, and I don't know how to say either one. Either way, they are walking around with a lot of just phlegm and all kinds of nastiness happening. So it's been fun over here. I so far have mostly ignored it. I've mostly been able to I feel a little down in the dumps, but I'm fighting it off. So hopefully we get through this, Jan.
We will get through this, Grubb. I have a very short work assignment coming up, and I am not missing it.
No, you're going to make it happen.
I'm not going to get sick. That's what it is. Yeah. And I know that as soon as I said it, I up the chance of getting sick, but I'm eating so much ginger, Grubb, my throat is burning.
Okay, and that's what you want. That's how you fix most things.
If I got to pull out half a raw onion and eat it, I'm going to do it.
That just sounds tasty at this point. That sounds real good. It's going over here. I am okay, the ice is outside, so I was going to go for my walk, and I'm as soon as I stepped outside, I was I will die if I try to walk on this sidewalk. So back inside. It's been a rough winter. I don't know. I guess I'll just hang out and play video games inside. That seems to be working for me just fine. There's a lot coming out right now, Jan. Have you picked a game recently?
I picked up one thing on Fantasy Critic. I meant to pick up more, but then I'm realizing how I don't want to overload on games now. And I just kind of want to wait for the rest of the year. But I am checking out a game that is out today called Keep Driving. I've seen some folks in the GB chat chime in about this. I think this is a very Grubb game.
Ooh, I'm going to check this out.
Imagine Oregon Trail, Grubb.
Okay.
Inventory management a la a Resident Evil.
All right.
And just vibes and driving.
Vibes and drives. Okay, I'm looking at this right now. Positive on Steam. YCJY develop it. Pixel graphics, atmospheric adventure RPG. Yeah, okay, yeah, look at this. This looks like a road trip RPG. This was when I was a kid. I always was like, that's the kind of video game I would make if I were older. So seeing something like this definitely triggers me in a positive way.
I know that we're standing right at the edge of the cliff with all the games coming out, Grubb.
Yes, we are.
For whatever reason, I feel compelled to try and figure out a way to play 1991's, I believe it's 91, Police Knots.
Okay, yeah. We can make that happen, right? That's Hideo Kojima joint, right?
It's a Kojima joint.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Someone had said it in chat earlier this week somewhere, and then it just it has just been infecting my brain.
I've never played that or Snatcher. Yeah, that's those are the two that they're visual novels / FMV cutscene heavy storytelling games. It doesn't really matter. You just want to play it, huh?
Yeah. It's vibes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, PoliceNaut's always had a cool look to it.
Yeah.
I like it was from in my head. I'm like, I think that was on Sega CD. I'm sure it was on a million other things in Japan though. So yeah, and I bet there are some like pretty good like modern fan translations and stuff of that like that for that as well.
Gotta be. There's gotta be.
Or we could just learn Japanese. We could just
Why not both?
Yeah, there we go. Okay, well, I'm like invested in making this happen now, Jan. Let's see if we can get on top of that. I would love to see it. In the meantime, though, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with porting powerhouse Iron Galaxy is laying off staff in what is regarded as a last resort. This is from Ben Lyons at Game Reactor. The layoffs wave across the video game sector continues to affect more and more people. On top of the round of additional layoffs that are rumored to have affected PlayStation again, which is another thing that's happened recently. Those are rumored. Not really exactly sure what's happening there yet, but those are rumored to be happening. While this is also happening, this other studio, Iron Galaxy, is doing this as what it calls a last resort. This time, it's the porting experts in the sports studio there. Most known maybe recently for Rumbleverse, but they worked on Killer Instinct. They were heavily involved in the Metroid Prime remaster. They've done a lot of work like that, but they definitely seemed to be in a situation, and they kind of say it pretty bluntly here. Once Rumbleverse went sideways, which was an Epic Game Store PC exclusive. It was also on console, I think, but that's where I played it. Once that went sideways, they definitely were reeling for a minute there, trying to see if they could get some other projects going to keep as many people employed as possible. That they've run out of runway there, and now they are trying to basically save the rest of the studio by making these cuts. Jan, I always feel it's always weird to cover layoff stories because you don't know the reality on the ground, what these people have been through. Real people's lives are involved, and we can only sort of glance in from the outside and try to understand what happened. And my gut here is like, man, if Rumbleverse could have just came to Steam, maybe that would have had a better chance of succeeding. And I'm sure it's way more complicated than that. I am sure that the people that are affected by this hear that and they like morbidly chuckle at like how little we fully understand about what they've been through and how to make a business like this go. But boy, I wish they would have just had been afforded every opportunity to succeed with a game like that. And now I think this speaks more highly to an industry that doesn't want to be spending a lot of money hiring up outside studios to do work unless they absolutely have to. So maybe that support work that they've been like supplementing the income for the studio with is just not out there as much as it once was. So how do you read this?
It's unfortunate, Grubb, especially, Dave Lang, very close friend of the website and everything. And
yes.
Layoffs at any level are going to be difficult. This hits a little bit harder because for smaller studios, you have to imagine that everyone feels the impact more so or like on a deeper level where, unfortunately, if you are a bigger company like a Microsoft or a Ubisoft laying off 200-300 people, you can kind of just get rid of them and erase them from your mind, especially if you're at a CEO level like Eve's. It's unfortunate. I at least appreciate the level of transparency that like, hey, we're trying to save the studio as a whole and we have to make these cuts. The port work, I feel like Iron Galaxy is very good at what they were doing with the ports. So yeah. I think you're right, Grubb. I think those bigger studios are tightening up the purse strings because they don't see the value or the money in porting an older game. They just want to continue taking stabs at live service games that will never get released.
Yeah, or they're bringing that stuff in-house. I was having a conversation with my wife, and her business relies a lot on like companies just kind of being like, okay, we have some extra money to spend. We're going to go hire this outside firm or whatever. And I think we're just kind of looking around and being like, that is, if it's not dried up, it is certainly drying up. It is these companies are feeling less flush, and I don't know if they actually are less flush. They probably do have the same amount of extra cash on the books, but the uncertainty in the global economy, for every reason that we've talked about recently on this show, first and foremost, the state of the United States, has, I think, spooked so many of these companies to the point where they are not investing. And I think that, that is just exacerbating foundational issues that have been there for a long time in how these companies want to spend money on games. And that's very likely that, Iron Galaxy is probably not laying people off because of the global economy in this moment. They are like, we've tried a bunch of different things recently for years, and everything kind of had to go exactly right for us to be able to save everyone at the studio, and it didn't. So again, it's going to be complicated. I hope they're able to make this work. A part of me is also like, God, wasn't Microsoft looking for someone to make Killer Instinct again? They would have been perfect for that. And it was always, I imagined while hearing things that kind of filled in with a little bit of color, my understanding, it was like, Iron Galaxy was busy with Rumbleverse, so they couldn't do that. And my hope was, okay, as soon as they get done with Rumbleverse, that's a shame. That game was very good. Should have survived, should have had a better chance, but it didn't. Hopefully now they can just rush over to Microsoft and say, hey, we will take on Killer Instinct for you, but maybe Microsoft found someone else. Again, we don't know. So I begin wanting to rationalize and understand how these things happen, and just try to imagine a world where the best case scenario could have happened. And I come out of it feeling pretty naive a lot of the times, Jan.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Grubb. It feels very easy to be on our side of the fence and just play armchair expert.
Yeah.
And not knowing all the various different pieces that go into having to make gigantic decisions like this. Overall, I am bummed because Iron Galaxy was one of those places where it's like, all right, it's cool to be weird and it's okay to be weird, because you get something like Dive Kick and Rumbleverse. For as much as like we and other people across the internet are talking about how great it was, I think legitimately, if it was given the proper runway, it could have maybe not taken off to Fortnite levels, but at least continued to build a niche community. I mean, there is an absolute drought when it comes to wrestling games, right? We had the one AEW game. There's WWE's kind of fixed things up now with 2K, and like those games are better now. But other than those two, very lacking in wrestling game representation. And there's so much space for Rumbleverse to have partnered up with an AEW or with a WWE, releasing skins on skins on skins. Or you know what? Rumbleverse could have teamed up with Stardom, Grubb. We could have gotten our Joshi wrestler skins.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, honestly, there's so many ways you could see Rumbleverse working if it just had been really given a chance.
And perhaps the partnership with Epic, right, tied up a lot of that, where they weren't allowed to reach out. And
Epic would rather close it than release it on Steam, right?
Yeah.
That was obvious. Again, who knows how much of that really is the culprit here? In my head, it's like that's a big part of it. People point out, Iron Galaxy also hasn't had a perfect record with putting ports out. Arkham one, the Arkham port that they did was plagued with issues. Now, how much of that was their fault has been debated. I imagine it's more complex than the Steam reviews would have led you to believe. And then they were also involved in a rough port of The Last of Us Part 1. But they've also done so many great ports that it's like, okay, they can do this, and sometimes it goes bad. So I bet it's, once again, more complicated than we understand. Because, hey, the team that worked on the Metroid Prime Remastered port deserves all of the applause in the world, and they were involved in that. So, yeah, I just think that this is something where we see them do this work, and then companies keep going back to them to ask them to do more ports. So clearly they enjoy working with them and have seen positive results. You don't get that repeat business if that's not the case. I think really this just comes down to, these companies are bringing more work in-house, trying to save money. And this is something we see in times of uncertainty. That was one of the first things that happened in 2008 as the recession was really starting to hit hard, was all of these support studios that existed in Australia that were holding up that entire country's video gaming industry all had their money pulled basically at the same time, left everyone reeling. And that was an entire country's worth of an industry. And I think we're kind of seeing that begin up once again. and maybe this is not like, oh, it's going to get that bad, but it feels like it is symptomatic in the same way that was symptomatic of a deeper uncertainty about video games overall. Either way, Iron Galaxy is still going. Hopefully they're able to figure some stuff out. A big part of this is obviously, I do enjoy Dave Lang, and but I think a big part of it also is these are people who are out of the like Midway family and Midwest gaming and Chicago, and we saw, was it Deep Silver or the team that works on Saints Row. They got hit with a bunch of layoffs as well, and they were also in the Midwest. And we don't have a lot of big developers left in the Midwest. And part of me feels like this is a slow draining of all of that talent, and video game development in the Midwest probably will not recover from this if it really goes away. It will just be smaller studios popping up here or there, and they will mostly have remote teams all over the world. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but the idea of like a big company you can go work at in the Midwest to make video games, that feels like it's a dream not long for this world. Volition, thank you, Chad, appreciate that.
Oh boy, yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Let's keep going. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater release date leaks via PSN. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. A trailer for Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater has gone live early, revealing the game's release date. The trailer, which is currently visible on the PlayStation Store page for the remake, shows that the game will be released on August 28th. According to the page, the game will be PS5 Pro enhanced. The trailer also confirms that the Snake versus Monkey mode from the original game will make a return in the remake. It's possible that the trailer was intended for Sony's rumored upcoming State of Play presentation. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater's difficulty will change based on whether players use the game's new third-person visual perspective or the original fixed perspective. And then Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater's modern perspective makes the game, which was originally released on the PlayStation 2, play more like Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, rather than the zoomed-out perspective of the original Metal Gear Solid 3 release. That's very fascinating. I had not realized that. I read some of those previews, but I must have glanced over that if people mentioned that before. Okay, August 28th, later than I was expecting, but honestly, early, kind of like, I guess it's like the heart of summer, basically. That sounds about right. That's pretty cool. At least we don't have to wait until like November. I'm really looking forward to this one, Jan.
I am as well. I'm ready to shimmy around ducts and to hide in boxes all over again, Grubb.
Yep. Yeah.
I think part of the reason I want to play Police Knots is I kind of miss Kojima's weirdness.
Yeah.
And he's been pretty quiet with Death Stranding lately.
Yeah.
I think we have a news story talking about that later, but I want the weird goofiness, Grubb.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the Snake versus Monkey mode always does remind me of like, how his goofiness really can infiltrate his games in a very obvious way. Obviously, the stories have a lot of quirks to them, and the characters are all pretty weird deep down and on the surface in many ways. But you're right. Like, this was just him kind of going ham, and I'm glad that this game will be able to preserve that and showcase it in a new way. Yeah, I mean, Konami really going hard with this one. There was a chance that this game I thought could have come out even last year, so them taking quite a bit of extra time to really get it right. I think they have some confidence in it. I think they think that this can sort of reset Metal Gear and get people very much back into that franchise and help them establish a new platform to launch future Metal Gear related projects. I don't know how likely it is they start making new Metal Gear games, but if this hits really hard, they probably do go back and begin remaking a bunch of other Metal Gear Solid games, which I think can hold them over for quite some time. And there's there's a lot of appetite for that. Obviously, Resident Evil proving that.
Let's see the Game Boy remaster remake of Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Also, hey, a lot of us had a lot of doubt with Silent Hill 2's remake.
That's right.
That wound up being very, very good. Had a lot of attention poured into that and love. So perhaps Konami may be doing something okay lately. Maybe they're getting their act together. Maybe they're the ex-Grubb that wants to get back with you.
Yeah, maybe they've like improved themselves in a real way, and it's not just all a ruse to appear better. Maybe they actually do care about these games again. Someone in chat asked, like, hey, why this one first? I think and then someone answered here, I see. This is first chronologically in the like Metal Gear lore. So I think they're looking at it that way, is we'll start with this and then and also obviously part of it is this is primed for a remake because it is from that generation where, yeah, they need to update some of the gameplay and change some of the things, but a lot of the foundational work is there. If you go back and remake Metal Gear Solid 1, it would take quite a bit more work to actually do that. We've heard other developers and other publishers talk about that, where it's like, hey, the PS2, PS3 era, a little bit easier to remake those occasionally. Yes, speaking of Konami, new Castlevania game apparently to be announced this year, according to rumor. This is from My Nintendo News. It has been a long time since we got a big budget Castlevania video game, despite it being a huge franchise and having a successful animated Netflix show. Now, a new rumor is doing the rounds online, suggesting that Konami is preparing to revive the franchise in the same way it is doing with the Metal Gear Solid series. Portuguese site Geekin' Out says a new AAA game is in the Castlevania series is on the way, and that it will be officially announced in 2025. As always, this is a rumor, so we'll have to wait and see how it actually pans out. Now, this is a rumor we've heard before, Jan. Early on, before Metal Gear Solid Delta was announced, there was rumors that, hey, a Metal Gear remake is happening, a new Castlevania game is coming, and they're doing a lot with Silent Hill. Well, we've had all the Silent Hill announcements. Metal Gear Solid, its date just got released, and we've known about it publicly for a long time. Castlevania has still been completely in the shadows. They have not confirmed that one way or the other at all. But this has everything else is lined up. So those rumors have felt pretty solid, and I've been holding a torch for this one. I'm hopeful. This rumor, Jan, says AAA game.
Cool.
Is that what you expect from a new Castlevania from Konami?
I guess so, because this is one of their like tentpole IPs that they could rally behind. That I guess doesn't have any residual stink on it, right?
Yeah.
Like Silent Hill has a Silent Hill stink. Metal Gear as well, with a complicated relationship with Kojima and his exit. Castlevania is like pretty okay, right? It's been on the up and up. The Dominus collection was good. The partnership with Vampire Survivors was good. People like that anime. My question for you, Grubb, I see AAA, and I'm wondering, does that mean it is going to be a 3D Castlevania versus a 2D Castlevania?
That's the implication I take away. Yeah.
Okay.
That to me, it's like there's 2D Castlevania or Metroidvania style Castlevania, and that's one thing they could possibly be doing. But the fact that the rumors have taken so long for us just to even like get to a point where they are going to maybe announce it this year, I guess that does suggest to me that maybe they're working on something bigger. And AAA 3D game. I mean, at this point, the roadmap is right there. You try to make a FromSoft style game.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Do they just make Bloodborne?
I mean, I think so. Yeah. I think Bloodborne and a lot of FromSoft games have always felt like, hey, these are 3D versions of Castlevania games in many ways. I think if you just make Bloodborne, but it is completely dripping in the style of Castlevania, I would love that. I would welcome that in a heartbeat. That would be amazing.
Hey, as someone that for whatever reason chose the whip cane to start out as my starting weapon in Bloodborne, I'm all for it. I had a taste. I want the whole meal now, Grubb.
Yeah, I think who knows how they would be able to pull this off if they have the team to do it. But I'm hopeful, and again, the roadmap is there. They know what they would need to do, and it's not like it's been impossible for someone to replicate what FromSoft has done. Lies of P has done very well, and there's been a handful of others that have gotten pretty close. And I think if you then have the level of separation of being like, yeah, we're taking inspiration from that stuff that took inspiration from Castlevania, but this is a Castlevania game, then that gives them the freedom to kind of go their way in a few. Like, the boss design doesn't have to be the most a startling thing you've ever seen, like FromSoft bosses. They could be the familiar demons that have always shown up in Castlevania, and I would be like, oh, cool, death is here. A giant Cerberus is here. This rules. So, I hope that if that's the way they're going, that's what we get. At the same time, wouldn't hate another new Metroidvania. Would love to see that too.
Hey, you know what? Why not a Dante's Inferno like?
Yeah, sure. It's about time we got someone brave enough to do that. All right, how do you say Cerebus, everybody? Is it not Cerebus? That's I thought that's how. Is it Cerebus? That doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right to me.
Okay, it sounded right when you said
Cerberus. Okay, that sounds right. Yeah. I think I've definitely heard people say it the other way, but Cerberus does sound more correct to me. All right, let's see here. Nintendo reconfirms Pokemon Legends ZA or ZA and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond coming 2025. This is from My Nintendo News. Nintendo has reconfirmed in their recent financial report that the long-awaited Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Pokemon Legends ZA are destined to be released this year. Hopefully, we will see both titles in action very soon. More than that, Jan, they've also basically said these are Switch 1 games still. Now, how that excludes them from Switch 2 in any way, they have not said, because obviously all Switch 1 games will be backward compatible. Also, that does not mean that they won't have some sort of presence as like, hey, Switch 2 is out now. Now you can play these games in an enhanced mode immediately because these are also basically Switch 2 games, but they are definitely going to be Switch 1 games. Which I love because Dan counterpicked Metroid Prime 4 in our Fantasy Critic, which is very funny. But also nice to okay, they're telling us, hey, we will still be talking about these games very soon. And of course, there is that rumored February Direct. And both those games probably show up there. And then, of course, Pokemon Day is also this month. Is it usually in February? Late February, I think.
I forget.
I think that's right. And so we'll definitely get an update about that game at that point. So yeah, you still reasons to play Switch 1, right?
100% Grubb. Like they're still trying to break records with that machine. That being said, with us being on the cusp of the Switch 2 launching, me personally, I think I might wait a bit at least to play Pokemon ZA until more Switch 2 news is revealed. Metroid Prime 4, I'll check it out. But Pokemon ZA, Grubb, as a Pokemon fan, I've been burned by single frame animations for so long.
Yeah,
I just need a little bit more juice. All right.
This is you feel like they have finally gotten the message, but who knows if they're actually gonna follow through on that. They pump those games out very quickly, and now they've always been making multiple games at the same time, and now the games are bigger than ever before, and clearly that has just caught up with them. And the tech has been like, hey, we cannot fully support the tech available to us without making major sacrifices other developers simply would not make. So I'm hopeful that they are like, just take a few extra months here and there on some of these projects just to fix them up enough and have a little bit more ambitions in terms of how you present them. In the meantime, though, Legends, the original Legends was really good. We also just don't know what this Legends ZA, how they're going to separate it from the main Pokemon games and the previous Legends game. Is it going to be like mostly play like that last Legends game, or as the trailer suggests, like have more city management elements? Like it was just a weird trailer. So I would really appreciate an update on what ZA is going.
What if there's no Pokemon?
Yeah, what if the Pokemon have all just retired?
Yeah.
Left. Maybe they all got traded to the Lakers. That's probably the most likely situation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone, or the Warriors at this point. That's kind of.
Yeah, I'm okay with that one.
Even really? Yeah, that was. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. Jimmy
Butler.
I don't know about Jimmy Butt. I don't know.
I'm more so jazzed, Grubb, for him bringing his coffee here.
All right. Well,
I'm more excited for the coffee than his basketball.
I think that's you're going to win on this one for sure. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, plenty of more to talk about, including how well Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has actually sold. We'll talk about that right after this. All right, let's get right back into it. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has sold 1 million copies. This is from Zoe Hanna at Polygon. After just a day on the market, the highly anticipated sequel to 2018's Kingdom Come Deliverance has sold 1 million copies, Warhorse Studios' Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was released to immediate and widespread critical acclaim, and obviously mounds of sales. Impressive at any time, but particularly in a competitive month that'll see Civilization 7, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Avowed, Monster Hunter Wilds, and Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii released before it comes to an end. Yeah, it's a busy time. The massive sales numbers are so close to other hugely popular releases suggest players are either dedicated fans who planned on buying Deliverance 2 no matter what when it came out, or that players intend to buy several games at the $60 price point in 2025. Regardless, the consensus among game reviewers, besides Polygon, unfortunately, as we didn't get a chance to play the game before launch, is that this game kicks ass, especially for folks already invested in the franchise. The combat gets lots of praise, along with the faithful and direct continuation of the story from the first game. And the game's signature realism and wry humor stays in this one too. Yeah, man, the one thing I have heard complaints about is the combat, so I need to just play this game for myself and see. Rushing to 1 million sales as a big standalone sequel, adventure RPG, open world RPG. I think it just shows this is one of the things that people really want, and it really puts the lie. We don't have to immediately go to like EA, but it immediately puts the lie to like Andrew Wilson kind of talking about, hey, Veilguard failed because that Dragon Age game was not live service. It's like, well, that didn't seem to hurt Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is probably already at the sales that Dragon Age the Veilguard's at. I don't know. I just feel like some of these companies are so out of touch, and then some of these smaller studios are so in touch with what the audience wants that it's kind of obvious at a certain point why some games are succeeding and why they're not, right?
Yeah, Grubb, there's like a gigantic audience for games out there, right?
Yeah.
Not everything has to be a live service game. Not everything has to be a Souls-like. Obviously, if Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has already developed its gigantic audience with the original game, despite the controversies surrounding it, and then this game can continue to do well despite a bunch of other Fallout or the original stink from the first one, you can make games like the other weird games, Grubb.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand why that is these bigger studios, these AAA studios are only chasing the other AAA games rather than like, well, that's working, so let's try and make one of those as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think the only take that I've seen, Grubb, that would have seen Veilguard is Imran Khan's take that what would have saved Veilguard is if they just called it Dragon Age Veilguard instead of the Veilguard.
Yeah, that would have made a difference for me for sure. God, I hate the Veilguard. Yeah, I think that people are just kind of craving anything in this genre at all. So anything that kind of comes in with some competency is going to be well received. And then I think also this is a sequel that has learned a lot, and I think we also have just see that repeatedly in video games, where the first game kind of like gets most of the stuff right, but overall it's a 7 or an 8 if you're being completely fair. And if they had time to make a follow-up to it, if they had time to let that institutional wisdom build up and keep people on the same team, working on the same kind of game for a long period of time and make them feel secure and like they have the ability to really see their ambitions through to the end, you get a sequel that really does pop off the page in the way that this one seems to be. So I don't know if publishers have the patience to even know that lesson, because I was going to say learn that lesson, but they've learned it so many times. They're the ones that prove that model, and yet they seem completely disinterested in following through with that sort of idea now. Unless the game, like the first game, immediately sells like 10 million copies, 10 to 15 million copies. Otherwise, they're just not going to give it time. And it's like, how many times have we seen an idea, a show, a book series, something like kind of like slowly build up an audience, or slowly have a small audience for a very long time, and then finally, after like a decade, all that comes together and it really finally does pop off and they get all the success. But I just don't know if modern day video game publishers are capable of that sort of patience anymore.
Yeah, I think based off of how companies are built now, Grubb, they intentionally do not give themselves enough runway to wait and see, right?
Mm-hmm.
like we talk about something having a cult success and eventually spinning off into the mainstream, and that's like a lot of miscellaneous fandoms across media. Like Doctor Who was originally a very niche series for UK aboos to get into, and now it's a big franchise on Disney Plus. Similar-ish thing with Twin Peaks. I just think of how RGG is able to take the existing tool sets that they have and spin off weird games like Pirate or Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza, whatever we're calling it.
Mm-hmm.
But also the Judgment series. Like the Judgment series, I don't know how well it's sold, but it feels like it has had enough success to build another cult-like audience within their existing cult-like
Yeah.
audience that is and Like a Dragon is now becoming a gigantic franchise with a big ass audience.
Yep. And over the time, like, because they had to be so scrappy for so long, as you were saying, they figured out so many smart ways to get the most out of all the parts and the components that they use to make those games, to the point where they can have the stuff like Judgment games where it's like, okay, this is going to take place in that same setting, and it's just going to have different characters and different mechanics, but we have a lot of the resources ready to go to deliver this in a pretty quick way. And they've done 2 Judgment games as this offshoot series, while having a bunch of other side games in the Yakuza series proper. It's to me, it's a model, but one that must be, I don't know if it's difficult, but one that is scary, I think, to most traditional publishers, or not as enticing as the lottery ticket of a big live service game hitting. But I'm hopeful that as these publishers kind of get scared off of live service games, they will begin looking around for what is something that is a little bit more stable. I hope they really prize stability going forward. And I think a model like what Yakuza's done, and like what a lot of these smaller indie teams and relatively larger indie teams have done, which is, hey, we're going to really focus in on a genre that has felt, abandoned in some ways. So yeah, I'm hopeful. And, I think EA is definitely playing with fire a little bit when they talk about, once again, abandoning single player games or having a hybrid only single player games that have a lot of live service elements, because I don't think gamers feel like they need that kind of publisher anymore. There was a time where it's like, hey, if we didn't have the EAs and the Activisions, we wouldn't get a lot of big games of any kind. And now, indie studios from Europe can put out a game that people feel is like the new Oblivion. And that felt impossible at a certain point. So I just like, if EA decides that they're done with us and they only care about the people that show up for the FIFA Ultimate Team, and they only care about like the mobile space, I kind of would be like, all right, so long at a certain point.
Yeah. But even those audiences like aren't coming in droves, right? Like
No.
Football Club is like,
It's down.
it's down.
Yep.
And with some of the stuff that I'm personally excited for from EA, or things that have like wowed me in the past, like it doesn't have a multiplayer component. Like Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I don't know how you ham fist any live service into that, or a multiplayer mode into that. Maybe like a dueling mode, I guess, but like it doesn't need it.
Yep.
And that correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe those games were very successful.
Yes, especially the first one, but I think the sequel did really well as well.
Mhm.
And they immediately started making a third one.
I don't understand why they feel the need to like say weird shit like, no, it would have been better if we had live service.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, and the hybrid model, it's worked here and there. I mean, Hitman clearly worked, and that was a live service game in that there was always something new in the works or getting added, or a new mode, a new way to engage with the same content. They made that game feel alive, for sure. But they had to build the whole game around that, like that. And I just think, like, let's just take Dragon Age and then slap the stuff in there, or try to make it work with that. That was never going to work. You have to build an entirely different kind of game, which maybe requires, like Hitman was maybe well suited to that. So maybe take a franchise that would be well suited to that and apply this. But overall, they probably need a lot of new ideas that can fit well into these new models. And in the meantime, what happens with the single player games. Well, I think if you just made them interesting, they'd probably be doing a lot better.
No,
I know it's insane. I shouldn't have said it. All right, we talked about Kojima a bunch already, but as Kojima teases a new trailer, Death Stranding 2 has been rated. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. Death Stranding 2 on the beach has been rated in South Korea as Hideo Kojima teases that he's working on a new trailer. The upcoming game, which currently doesn't have a release date, has been rated by the South Korean Ratings Board. The rating warns that the game includes excessive violence, vulgar language, direct drug use, and more. Sounds like a party on the beach. While games are routinely rated several months ahead of release, it usually is an indication that the game is very close to completion. This coincides with several teases from creator Hideo Kojima that suggest he could be working on a new trailer for the game. Kojima, who famously edits the vast majorities of the trailers for his own video game projects, has taken to social media to tease a Premiere Pro timeline and several shots from what could be a trailer for the game. Yep, that guy, he loves that stuff.
I need it, Grubb.
I know.
I need it.
I know. I love that that's still his favorite thing to do. It's just like, man, I love making trailers, and he's good at it. He really is good at it.
He's very good at it.
Yeah.
When I learned that fact about him, I was very impressed, and then I started to understand his brain a little bit.
Yep.
More. What was the quote? Is it implied drug use or?
Let's see, direct drug use.
Okay, so that puppet is doing a line of coke.
Oh, that puppet is just such a cokehead. Oh my god, I forgot about the puppet. How do I keep forgetting about the puppet, Jan?
I like Leia Sadu has like a scarf with hands.
Yep.
Or it's like a hand scarf.
Yep.
I don't understand any. I think I want to play through Death Stranding again, Grubb.
Yeah, I do too. I like that game fine, but I never really got into the director's cut. I should go back and really give it a chance.
I don't know how Amazon delivery drivers are in your neighborhood, Grubb, because they probably just get on and off the truck.
They're all just like Daryl from Walking Dead.
Well, but since I live in an apartment building, the delivery person will generally have like a giant soft crate that they're carrying on their back. And our mailroom is weird, so I'll generally have to like buzz them in. It is just hilarious watching them take out,
manipulate the crate.
20 different little envelopes in this gigantic crate.
That's okay. I know they don't do that here because it's like we're the suburbs, so they're just driving around. I have not seen the crate backpack.
Oh, Grubb, I'm gonna take a picture.
Yeah, I would love to see this.
I'm just gonna expense like 20 retro tinks from Amazon just so you can see this.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I did. Backlar did let me expense my retro tinks, so we'll be able to play my N64. Looking forward to that.
I don't even know what I can plug into a retro tink. I just bought 20 of them, and Backlar was
just keep them there. Bud. Yeah, treat them like Lego. Stack them together, build little houses. It would be awesome.
I'll just daisy chain the retro tinks.
This game probably shows up at that PlayStation State of Play that is rumored to be happening around Valentine's Day.
He's gonna make it like a love trailer or something.
I think there's a chance he could. Yeah, I think he would love to like do that. That would be amazing. What are
the odds, Grubb, that like he's been wicked pilled?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Like there's no chance he hasn't been wicked pilled. It's a movie that came out. Of course he watched it.
Oh man, and then just he 100% ate up the musical sequence from Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
He's gonna add some songs to this, Grubb.
He's gonna be jealous that he doesn't have more musical numbers in his stuff. Yep. I think. I mean, especially in the trailers. Oh my god, because he just goes crazy in those things, which is half the fun for me. I really enjoy his lead ups to releasing games because they're not like, oh, that's more interesting than the games themselves, but they're just also very cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This will probably be like them getting started in earnest. We don't have a release date for this game, right? Let's see.
Negative.
Yeah. So but it probably does come out this year. I think it's most people's expectations. So maybe we get a release date here. This feels like one that could be first half of the year still, and then maybe Sony has, because this will be exclusive to PlayStation for some time. This will be one of their first half exclusives, and then maybe they have something else for the second half of this year. That kind of feels right at this point.
Has Has Hideo Kojima acquired Lin-Manuel Miranda yet?
I don't know if he's added him to the collection yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I,
I think we have a way to ham fist that into happening.
yeah, I mean, I think at a certain point, it's like we definitely have the connections to get that fully completed. And I always love the stories of Hollywood people being told that he's going to contact them. And like, look, Hideo Kojima is going to call you. He's a video game developer in Japan, and he's a genius. Just do whatever he says. And then they all just do whatever he says, which is fly to Japan, step into my chamber, and let me capture you like a Pokemon.
I mean, hey, anything's possible. I'm sorry, Dan. Death Stranding 2 will have a musical segment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Dan, if you want, again, go watch The Apple, because that's the dumbest musical ever, and it's like, it's fun to hate. So, God, that's a good one. Everyone should watch that new pickle giraffe. Good moment in there related to The Apple. All right, let's see here. Keep going. Sega files new Sonic Blitz trademark. This is from Ollie Reynolds at Nintendo Life. Sega has filed a new trademark for something called Sonic Blitz, as revealed via Chise Watch, which is they basically just track trademarks in Japan. Naturally, very little is known about the trademark, but it covers all the usual categories you might expect from a company like Sega: education and entertainment, machinery, ROM cartridges, programs for home consoles, optical discs, headphones, speakers, electronic circuits, and blah, blah, blah. Basically, everything that could potentially be linked to a major video game franchise. This feels like the new Sonic universe for merchandise and animation and stuff like that. And there might be a game related to this as well. But this definitely feels like when we got like Sonic Boom, and the big effort there was, well, there's a Netflix show, and yeah, sure, there's a game. It was trash. But this feels like that to me. I don't know. Maybe is something else happening here, Jan, that you can maybe pin down here?
Whenever I hear Blitz added to something, I just think, okay, this is going to be a mobile game. Perhaps it is a different platform, like you're saying, Grubb, or just to try and get everything underneath a neat umbrella. The Sonic IP is very weird because I feel like the people out there that only consume the movies are a very different audience than the Sonic video game audience as well.
Yes.
Very different because
true.
The Sonic movies don't quite reflect everything that you can do in the game at all, because other than going supersonic, Sonic and Shadow aren't having Super Saiyan battles on the moon, from my memory in the games at least. You're just getting the Iblis trigger, right?
That's right. Yeah. I did watch Sonic 3. That was a lot of fun. That's a fun movie. There's Chow and there's a Saiyan battle on the moon. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. Yeah, I think you're right that this is them kind of maximizing the return on Sonic and making sure that, hey, the movies are chugging along. Let's make sure we have other ways for people to engage with Sonic and kind of start a new initiative here, fresh. And, it's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? There's always a new Turtles for the latest generation of kids. It's like Pokemon. Sonic really does have Pokemon-like appeal, is what I've discovered. Kids just see Sonic and they're immediately like, that is a cool dude that I am into. So,
yeah, I don't get it, because I was once in those shoes of those children of like, Sonic is hella cool. He loves chili dogs.
Yeah, exactly. And today, Sonic is the #1 avenue through which children learn about the concept of chili dogs. I think that is a factual statement. So
no, 100%. I did not know what a chili dog was until Sonic the Hedgehog.
My kids too. They started talking about chili dogs one day, and I'm like, "Who showed you Sonic? Who showed you Sonic? You tell me right now." Anyway, Sonic Blitz trademark. All right, people just sent me this. Let's dive into this real quick. Forget E3. The ESA is back with a new video game conference for change makers. Oh no. This is from Chris Kerr at GameDeveloper.com. Let me first accept the cookies. There we go. The ESA, organizer of the once revered but now dead E3 showcase, is returning to the event fold with the Interactive Innovation Conference, or IICon. Econ, Icon. Have fun with that one. The conference is being pitched as an essential convening for change makers across the industries, but will seemingly focus on those careening through the world of video games. It will take place at the Fontainebleau Resort in Las Vegas from April 27th through April 30th, 2026. And they're inviting big players from around the industry. A number of high-profile companies from the games industry have already confirmed their attendance, including Amazon Games, Disney, Electronic Arts, Epic Games, Microsoft, Nintendo of America, Sony Interactive Entertainment, Square Enix, Take-Two Interactive, Ubisoft, and Warner Brothers Games. The ESA claims Icon will unite a broad spectrum of sectors that converge with interactive entertainment. We going to Vegas, Jan? I'm sorry. Are we going to Vegas, Jerome?
Hey, baby. Jerome will treat you right.
Yeah.
As you are I need everyone to pull up the news story that Grubb is reading, but I need you to put up the song from Jaden Smith called Icon with Will Smith featured on it, because I just, as I am hearing you say all those things, Grubb, it just feels like nonsense, and I'm being sold fish oil. I am, or snake oil, sorry. Fish oil is actually
fish
good
oil
for you.
Is good for you.
Snake oil. And you know what? I'm throwing the sunglasses on, Grubb. I'm going to pop my collar. I'm going to light a cigarette, and we're all in, baby.
All right, here we go.
We're the big change makers coming in.
Oh, shit, change makers, right? That's what it's all about.
Grubb, I was talking earlier this week, I think last week maybe, that I want to maybe get out there and host more things. ESA, let me do it.
Oh,
let me do it.
Oh, shit. I always point out, me and Mike were on that last E3. We helped kill E3. They had GamesBeat Decides, it was known then, do like an hour-long special for them that they just threw into the middle. It was terrible. So I got connections for you. I can get you connected up with the ESA. Yeah, okay, so they're not promising a replacement of E3. They are shifting from LA to Vegas. That's honestly a good idea. So much more room in Vegas to do stuff like this. Not that they need a lot of space, but it'll also be much cheaper. There's a lot of reasons Vegas is better, other than having to be in Vegas, which some people see as a negative. I think for us, we're gonna just paint that town red. It's gonna be done. It'll be a good time, but I don't know. What are they actually trying to accomplish here? I guess having a bunch of companies confirmed to be involved, but in what way? I don't like. Nintendo says they're involved. Sony's involved. They're not going to have like a Nintendo Direct at this thing, right? Like they have in the past for E3, right?
This feels like a step lower than perhaps like how a GDC is, where there's not going to be major big announcements coming to this. Everyone is already on like the cycle to prepare for the summer and the winter, with like Keely's summer birthday, Keely's winter birthday. That why fudge with the cycle now? I don't think they're going to have a booth prepared for this. Maybe they'll just be there to take appointments and eat at a buffet.
Yeah, this feels like Shadow E3 exclusively, which is maybe the one thing that was most necessary to continue existing in some way. So I wonder if these companies like went to them like, hey, we want your dues, but what do you want from us? And these companies are, all right, well, I guess we'll keep giving you money, but can you please just make some way for us to connect with each other in a way that makes sense? We don't need $1 billion spent on getting a bunch of people to fly out to LA. Just give us some way for us to convene. And that seems to be what this is all about.
I mean, there is a utility aspect, right? Of like all of these developers and publishers getting together in one location and being able to mingle, network, and just shoot the shit. And maybe that is what the ESA is going to facilitate. Having it happen in Vegas just makes it sound skeezier.
Oh yeah, I think it's fully admitting how skeezy it is. Yes,
I'm all for it though, Grubb. Lexi, you are young. You are young. Do not question Vegas. You need to welcome Vegas as a magical place.
You need to be brave enough for Vegas. And then you can fully assess America and the video game industry. And I got a perfect time for you to do both of those things all at once. Go ahead, Jan.
I went to Las Vegas 2 years ago, Grubb.
I
didn't want to leave. I did not want to leave. And it's not because of the gambling, everyone.
No, it's the shows.
yeah, where else am I going to see the Blue Man Group and Chris Angel?
Yeah. Well, okay, never mind. There's only one Chris Angel, the Mind Freak. April is around the time when they do WrestleMania, right? That's always when they do WrestleMania is April. I wonder if there's a chance these could ever be back-to-back events, or even like the same weekend. That it's you. Okay, the week before, says Dan. Is it okay? It's April 19th and 20th this year. I know they try to do different cities, but they've been doing a lot of the stuff in the same cities recently. So I wonder if there's a chance that they come back to Vegas relatively soon, and then, hey, change makers and superstars together in one city at one time. I want to see it. All right, let's get over here to the poll question. I have that ready to go mostly. Nope, I just turned on Bomberman music instead. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my bad. Okay, there is that.
Yes, Dan, they still do AVN.
Yep. And maybe we can have all three at one time. The trifecta.
The real Cerberus.
The real Cerberus. That's the three-headed demon right there. All right. Do you think Halo the Master Chief Collection will come out on the Nintendo Switch 2? Yes or no? 79% say yes. 21% say no. A lot of people are just like, this one feels so obvious at this point. To the point, I think a lot of people are expecting something Halo to be announced at like the April 2nd event, where it's like, no, Halo the Master Chief Collection will just be on Switch 2 at launch. That aggressive. So people are very much over this. Like it happened, it happens quickly all at once after several years of pain of people being like, will they ever do this? And here we are, kind of it all happening at once. All right, I have a new poll question. We'll get to that here in a second. While we get that set up, Jan Ochoa, what do we have happening on GiantBomb.com?
Later today, we will have a episode of Voicemail Dump Truck with special guest John Warren. Also, I think several of us are tagging out, and it is just going to be our dear coworker Jeff Bacalar with Lucy James, Nikki Grayson, and the guest John Warren. Tomorrow, we're going to have another episode of Game Mess Mornings, as well as the Power Bombcast tomorrow, taking place instead of BCR. And then we're going to try and do some type of UPF type of jazz dealio. Yep,
looking forward to it. We'll figure all that stuff out. If you are looking for something to watch right now, we had some fun with Puck. That was a good time.
Yes. The finale of Blight Club.
Finale of Blight Club
yesterday.
Yep, that's right. So I am preparing myself to play some bad N64 game as if such a thing could possibly exist. I'm getting that all set up once my retro tink gets here. Honestly, that might take a little bit longer in the week. I might have to actually get something else in the meantime, at least for the first episode. So we'll see. Just a cheap thing off of Amazon. Looking forward to that starting up next week. In the meantime, though, Jan Ochoa, thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
It's the only way to start a Thursday, Grubb.
I don't think I did the new poll question. What do you want most from a new Castlevania? A new 2D Castlevania or a 3D AAA blockbuster Castlevania? Go vote now. YouTube.com/@GiantBomb there on the community tab. Thank you all for listening and watching. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.